Welcome to the engineering spec review of the 2012 The-Wildcat-Wildcat. This is going to take a little while because there's a lot of stuff to cover here, but we're here to talk about it from the engineering sense. Well, when you look at this vehicle and we developed this thing, what does it reek of? Suspension, 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 and that's the main thing you need to remember about the Wildcat. That is what we spent the most time on in engineering, and that's what we want you to remember. And we'll start right here with the rear end. This is a really unique thing that you'll see out here in the industry. The Wildcat has a unique 5-link suspension in the rear with a whopping 18 inches of wheel travel. There isn't anything else out there like it. Why do we call it a 5-link? Well, it's pretty simple. There's 5 links. We have an upper and lower trailing arm, and there's 3 what we call lateral links in the back that tie it to the side. 5 links. People ask you, why did we do the 5-link suspension? Well, to get that 18 inches of wheel travel, you needed the extra links. What happens is it keeps the tire flat as it goes through the suspension travel and keeps a maximum tire patch on the ground so you can get traction. Remember, we've always hung our hat on maintenance-free bushings. And if you look at this, there's a lot of joints on this 5-link suspension, all of them maintenance-free. That means no grease zerks, no work, just go out and ride. Obviously, we have 18 inches of wheel travel, and you got to control a lot of motion here. The big Walker-Evans shocks. Why wouldn't you go with Walker-Evans? These guys have been around the game. Baja 500, Baja 1000, nice shock, American-made, billet parts. And when you start looking at this shock, look at what the operator has. It has a 16-position compression adjust on top, so they can tune the suspension to what they want. If they see something different, everybody has their own feel. They have that adjustability right here. But they also can adjust the spring preloads in 2 settings on this rear suspension. Up front, up top here is the main preload adjust, which will adjust the ride height. And then here's a secondary preload adjust that they also can move, and that is a transition between these 2 springs, and that affects that when they hit. Now that's going to be more of your high-end users, somebody that really understands the suspension, but the thing is they have that opportunity to adjust it. As we move forward, we'll talk about the front suspension as well. Front suspension is a traditional double A-arm setup like you've seen on our ATVs and crawlers before. But different on this, once again, 17 inches of wheel travel in the front end. And when you got that kind of wheel travel, just like the rear, coupled with a Walker-Evans shock, with the compression adjust, just like in the rear, and also the spring preload adjust, just like the rear, so the operator can tune the suspension to what they like. The other thing unique about the front end that we want to talk about in the front suspension, an all-new steering rack. As you can see, it's very small and compact as traditional steering racks. And the reason why we did that is that brings our tie rod pivot points inside on the same pivot plane as what our A-arms are. And what that does is that reduces bump steer greatly in the front end. When you have this kind of wheel travel, 17 inches, you want the bump steer down to a minimum. And then we also added the electric power steering system that we've used on our ATVs and crawlers. And remember, our electric power steering system is not just simply power assist. This power steering system has the increased power motor. It looks at speed and mile per hour and takes those inputs as well as the person's input at the steering wheel and what the tire is seeing from the trail. It takes all those things into account and adjusts accordingly. So not only do you get easier steering, but it also helps you when you're in the bumps. You don't have the feedback in the steering wheel. But now let's talk about what pushes this great suspension program that we have going on the Wildcat. Well, back here in the Wildcat, you'll see it's the Arctic 1000 engine V-twin. EFI, fed by a massive 50mm throttle body. That gets the power to the ground to move that suspension. Now, what you'll see here is what's new to the Wildcat for our ATVs and crawlers is you can see here we went to a ceramic coated twin exhaust pipe. Why would we do the ceramic coating? No more heat shields, aluminum heat shields. The ceramic coating takes care of that. That allows us to put a bigger diameter pipe on there and get more power out of the engine. It also has a very nice look. Also back here in our drivetrain, we have an all-new rear gear case with the ever-popular peak torque limiter integrated in the front right here. So what that means is when you hit that spike load and the wheel's spinning, it hits the ground, it sees a very high spike. That slips just like a clutch and saves your whole driveline and your axles. We didn't only just power up the engine, we powered up the stator inside of it. Inside of here is an all-new stator that we developed for the Wildcat. So when they're plugging in their cell phones, running their radios, they now have more power coming out of the engine to charge those things. All right, let's talk about what you're seeing on the overall side of the Wildcat. When you walk in the showroom, what are you seeing? Well, first thing, let's talk about this exoskeleton frame. This is made from an HSLA steel material. What is HSLA? Well, that stands for high strength, low alloy. And what it is that means we can get higher strength with less weight. And that's what you're seeing in all this structure and what's exposed in the vehicle. And check out this massive rear storage that we have on the Wildcat. 300-pound carrying capacity. But look at the overall size of this. Larger than the competition with tie-down hooks so you can secure your cargo when you're going down the trail. And in the rear of the vehicle, we got to point out the new LED tail lights. Why LED? They're brighter and they also require less amperage draw. We also, on this vehicle, you'll see these new tires from Duro as well as these new aluminum wheels, all developed for the Wildcat product. These are a radial 4-ply rated tire, and you can see it's a brand new tread pattern. This will be the first vehicle to have this on the market. It works very well, very durable tire, and as well as a new stylish aluminum wheel. Popular with our other vehicles, all these painted panels. This is back to the automotive style finish paint. And you can see this is in our apple green metallic. Looks great, durable, and they can polish it up. Not like the old plastic like we all talk about. Doesn't scratch. You can buff it out, you can wax it, and they can keep it looking good in their driveway. We've talked about all the outside features that people are going to see, but now let's talk about what they get to experience when they get in the Wildcat. I mean, as you can see, this is a great, beautiful looking cockpit. Single button release door, easy access. All new contoured seats, race bred, formed to fit around you, and the cut and sole look. It's a beautiful looking seat. You don't see anything else like that on the market. When you get into this cockpit, that's where it all starts to come to life. Similar type functions you'll see on our other vehicles, the buttons and switches. So you have your high, low beam light right here on the left. And remember, we talked about the LED lighting, less power draw, brighter lights. Tilt steering with an infinite amount of positions to fit the different sized riders and their comfort level. Our new digital analog gauge that comes with the Wildcat, centrally located, has all the features that you'll see in our other vehicles. Mile per hour, RPM, and you can toggle between the two as simple as a push of a button. But also the gauge, the gear indication, fuel gauge, but it has odometer, your trip meters, as well as an hour meter and a clock. The same type of features you'll see on our other multi-function digital gauges. Down from that, part of the Wildcat is our 2 to 4 to 4-wheel drive lock front differential. All electric, all by the push of a button. There's a 12-volt accessory plug right here in the center, easy to get at as well. We've got the cup holders down here in the center console that people can hold 2 beverages with the rubber lining, keep things from bouncing around. Center mounted shifter. This vehicle has park in the transmission, so there's no parking brake. You simply put it in park just like your car. Neutral, reverse, high and low range. And then also new to the Wildcat is a lockable glove box that you see here. Simply open and a keyed lock. We have our anti-cinch seat belt, so when you're going down the trail, it absorbs that and your shoulder stays a lot more comfortable through a long day of riding. When we talk about all these features, these are the creature comforts people are looking for in the vehicle and the options they're looking for. But we also want to talk about what we did with this cockpit. When you sit in this vehicle, we talked about ride-in suspension for the last several years on the Arctic product. Well, we're still following that ride-in feel theme with the Wildcat. Let's compare it to the RZR. It doesn't have the ride-in feel. You sit up on that thing. The Wildcat, we have the same ground clearance, 13 inches, yet our seat is 5 inches lower than that. You're part of the vehicle. You're also sitting closer to the center of gravity. The RZR, you sit on it. The Wildcat, you sit in it, and you're part of the experience. All right, let's recap the Wildcat from the engineering point of view. Once again, you're going to be selling against the RZR and the Commander. Look at this thing. Should we even talk about the Can-Am Commander? Forget it. You got it beat. But let's talk about why we're even better than the RZR. It's simple. Let's hit the first key point. Suspension, suspension, suspension. 18 inches of wheel travel in the rear, 17 up front. Guys, we have compression adjust shocks, Walker-Evans shocks, a well-known name. It's a very good, high-quality suspension. But tied into that suspension, power steering. They don't have electric power steering like we do. The Wildcat does. Then we get into the sit-in of the vehicle. You sit in this vehicle. We talked about the location of you to the center of gravity and how you feel part of the machine. Plus, you're sitting 5 inches down than you are on the RZR, and the RZR, you sit on it. Go sit in a RZR and sit in the Wildcat. You don't feel part of the machine. But that's even just the tip of the iceberg. Look at this thing. We've got painted panels. They don't. We know how popular the automotive painted finish is. LED lighting, front and rear. And then let's not even forget, once again, a high output 1000 Arctic Cat engine, the V-twin. We know the torque monster that is. Guys, what else do you need?